Okay, well, welcome. I'm excited to have you guys on an episode. Thank you for having me at your location. Super
Yeah,
exciting.
you're welcome.
Yeah,
Of course.
this is cool. It's different. It's a little change up from my little setup at home. So.
Yeah,
It's always good to have a change of scenery.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
got the pool over here, little pool lounge.
Cloudy day, but
I
that's
know.
okay. Usually
It's a
makes for good
bummer.
lighting. So.
Yeah.
But we got the fire though.
But
so
we
like
got the fire.
Yes.
It's a pretty
It's
small
beautiful.
fire, actually. But it looks like it's barely there.
I know. Well, maybe it's like needs like fuel. More
Maybe
fuel.
it does.
Yeah.
You know.
It's kind of a sad fire for such a grand fireplace.
I know. We gotta complain about it.
Right.
Dangerous request.
No, we're happy. We're excited to be here. So it's a new scenery, but also this is the first time I've had guys on here.
All right.
Yeah.
Good, we get to be the
Special.
first.
Yeah, the first.
All right.
And it's two
Wow.
guys. Yeah.
2 for the price of 1.
Yeah. Buy one get one free. We're running a deal right now.
I feel like that's the deal with you guys.
It's a great deal. It's a great deal. You can't complain.
Awesome. Yeah, hell no. So okay, do you guys have any context of what the podcast is about?
No, educate us. Tell us about your amazing podcast. All these great things you're doing. We
Well,
love
it's
to know.
interesting, like we met you through some of our events and we had no idea that you were running your own podcast. It was only recently that we found out about it.
I think when I met you guys, I don't think I had started it yet.
Right.
Maybe it was around that time.
Mm-hmm.
I may have started it like a week before or a week after, maybe. So it wasn't even something that I had
Yeah.
really been sure about doing. But then I kind of like dipped into it a little bit around that time and was like, well, I went in full on and I was like, let's see if it works or not. But it's been seeming to have like increasing success. So
That's amazing.
I'm excited.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, fingers crossed. We'll see how it goes, but slowly but surely it's gaining some traction.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring you guys on because the whole podcast is about women's role in society from the perspective of women in entertainment. And when I started,
Well, we're
the
not
podcast-
women.
and you're not women, clearly. So, for my audience, it's like, well, why do I have 2 men on here?
Right.
It's all about women's perspective. But something really interesting that I was having when I started the podcast, I started making it a little bit more clickbaity. And because obviously, if you see my content, I, as an image, is very geared towards the male population. And I know how to engage with that population.
Yeah.
It's not hard, you just put a thong on and bam, you got them.
Right.
So I started like in my usual, like I know how to go viral, I'm gonna kind of go in that direction. But the more I brought women on, the deeper our talks got. And the whole point of me starting this was to be like, well, you get all this heat for women who are in these more sexualized, sensual industries, but what are they really thinking? What's really going through their mind? And like, what does it really take to be a woman in that position? So I started to kind of cut out the clickbaity things, cut out the things that I knew would go instantly viral and get a male audience, and started just focusing on the content of what I really wanted to talk about. And I've noticed our audience started going up and then it just stopped. But then I started noticing more women started engaging with the content.
Yeah.
Which is great,
That's awesome. Yeah.
But when I started, and I did kind of gear towards getting that male audience, and then it slowly started to shift, I would read some of these comments and I was just floored. Like one day I woke up and I read some of the comments on one of the videos and I was like, I was devastated. Honestly.
Tell us some of the crazy.
Yeah, like what sort of comments?
So I brought it up in one of them. I need to screenshot them because I also would love to tag these people and post these videos. But there were some comments about like, I had talked about how in Hollywood, something that happens a lot is that, men in power will try to take advantage of women and even men who are trying to get into the industry. So
Yeah.
it's like, they'll try to either get you to date them, they'll try to rape you, they'll try to take advantage
Like
of
some
you in
Harvey
some way.
Weinstein stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
very common.
It's
This
been
is
happening in Hollywood since the dawn of time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's a big issue that I want to address head on. And so, it was interesting because, I feel like it's common knowledge. It's wrong. Don't do it.
Yeah.
But the comments I were getting oh, it's never the woman's fault. Or what was the other one? Well, if you didn't, if you didn't want to do it, you shouldn't have taken the job. Just don't take the job. And it was just, they said it a lot ruder. My mind is obviously not geared towards that.
Yeah.
But it was just very blaming the women for being raped. And I wanted to cry reading that. So I really was and then we also, one of our first episodes, a big theme was, should a man pay? And we did it we had 3 different episodes, and one was from a very monogamous traditional standpoint, and the other was from a very polyamorous standpoint. Both were the man should pay. And the comments I got on that was also very interesting. And a lot of that was not, people were not about that either. So I was well, let's bring on some men. And we usually have a production team of men who will ask questions at the end. And that was why I decided to have men interactions, because I saw them on the other end getting triggered. I saw them sighing and shaking their head. And I was okay, I gotta open this up to being more of a debate and getting the other side too.
Yeah.
Because the whole goal of this podcast isn't just speaking up for women. It's how can we as a society
Right.
uplift both sides? How
Yeah.
can we be both better men and better women?
Yeah.
And so it's not a man-hating podcast at all. It's let's get each other's perspectives and see how can we grow, because there is so much this whole hoe culture that's coming out, this whole well, he's fucking 10 girls, so I'm gonna fuck 10 guys, and it's just become very disrespectful.
Yeah.
So I thought you guys would be a great first group of guys to bring on, because we met in the modeling industry.
Yeah.
And you guys don't model, but you do the other side.
Wait, we don't.
We do content creators,
I mean, I don't
or
think
lifestyle
model, but-
content creators,
Yeah, so tell me about what you guys do and how you got into it also.
Sure. So, we're lifestyle content creators. We started basically as a hobby, right? I just realized I was really good at cinematic content. Yeah. And so I was just interested in, documenting more of the cool lifestyle that I have. And then Peter and we went to Swimsuit USA, a couple of different modeling sort of oriented events, and we were having a great time, creating amazing content for these brands, helping them grow their audience, and also just really having a good time. And so we thought we'll share more of that lifestyle with people. So that's how we got started, honestly. And it's just been taking off quite a bit. And we're excited to just partner with more people and also really start having this dialogue that you're talking about, because, society is evolving right now, and, we all are kind of don't want to be at odds with, each other, right?
Yeah.
We want to create a collaborative kind of environment. So that's what we're about. We're lifestyle content creators, creating collaborative environments, sharing our cool lifestyle.
Yeah, and so for me, my journey has been much shorter than Max, because Max has been doing some sort of content creation for a while. For me, I was kind of a little bit into more landscape photography and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so that's how I kind of got started.
Okay.
But then around the same time I met Max, I started to get into more of the video aspect and doing more lifestyle type stuff. And after meeting Max, we kind of found that we had a lot of alignment on a lot of things. And so we started working together a lot. And that's when we made the trip to Sweden.
Yeah.
And we made so much content it was lifestyle, social type content from that. And that's when things really kind of
Took
congealed
off.
for us.
Yeah.
We were like, okay, this is the direction we want to go. It's like lifestyle content creators, because like we
Got it.
worked so well on that together.
Yeah.
And one thing I would say kind of about the dynamic that you've noticed is I think like in our culture today, there's a critical lack of empathy in a lot of people. And empathy being the ability to be able to see another person's perspective and kind of put yourself in their shoes and see things through their eyes.
Yeah.
And one thing I think Max and I, from our work through social events and working with women in the modeling industry, it has enhanced our ability to empathize with women, because a lot of these girls are our friends.
Yeah.
And so we can, through our conversations with them, see to a certain extent, right? We don't live their same lives, but having them as friends, we can, to a certain extent, empathize with their situations a lot better. And so it's made us kind of open up our eyes to like what it's like being on the other side.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. And also like, especially like with pageants or even like what you do, we see how much like work that goes into it. Like you have to be very skilled, you have to be on top of, you have to be professional, right?
It's a lot of work.
It
It's
is
a lot of work.
Exactly. And so for, some people it's easy who actually haven't been involved with this, just look at that and like, oh, just like, they're just doing it because they're pretty or attractive and they'll just get the audience, but not understanding the amount of work that goes into being a model or being a pageant girl or being a burlesque dancer and the effort that people put in. So I think we have a much more better perspective, I would say, because we're closer to it and we've seen what happens. And I think that gives us a little bit of a better understanding of what's happening.
Yeah, which is awesome, because I know like when I started my career, I got so much heat. Now, like everybody is always like, oh my God, you're so amazing. And I'm like, well, yeah, you think that now because I'm successful.
Yeah.
But when I started, it was like, everyone was like, oh, why are you selling yourself? Like, you're just disrespecting yourself and all this stuff, not realizing like the vision I had in mind where I was going. And not understanding, like, at least what I do specifically is very much so about the art more than anything else. But what has been really, really interesting to me is I recently began my acting career, which was handed to me on a silver platter. And I am coming from zero acting. And now, amazingly, thank God, like, was just given this incredible career opportunity. And it's been so fascinating to me going from being a burlesque dancer, dabbling in the OnlyFans world, seeing even like the porn side of the industry, and now coming into acting and seeing how like there's not like as much difference between the worlds as you would think. But the way they're perceived or revered are so different, which kind of blows my mind. Like, I was even watching a TV show last night, and there were like some sex scenes in it. And because like now when I watch TV shows or movies, I'm thinking like, what is the actor going through? How are they getting these shots? Like, where are they cutting? What's like the back dialogue going on? And I put myself in those situations. And, sometimes I'm looking at some of these things and I'm like, it's so crazy that people will revere these incredible actresses or actors. And then you have like people in, I guess, sex work who are doing very similar things. Some of it is simulated. A lot of it is actually very simulated. And they get a whole different type of reputation. It's not even the reputation, it's how they're treated in day-to-day life. Granted, in Hollywood for a while, I feel like porn stars were like gods and goddesses for a hot second. But like they do get a lot of heat as people, which is what I think is really hard. So it's just been really fascinating to me to see the difference of how society perceives things and forgets that people in entertainment are real people still. Even last night, I was dancing at Keys, and we got backstage, and one of the girls I was dancing with was like, it's just so crazy how they forget that we're actual people. Like the number of times, you know, thankfully Keys is great. They have great security, a lot of security. But you know, there's times when like you're dancing and a girl will like slap your ass. And it's like, you're not a guy, but you still have no right to slap my ass. Like,
Right.
yeah, I'm getting paid to be here, but like, what makes you think that's just because you're a girl, you think it's okay for you to touch me? And just because like I'm
That's what
elevated
happens to me a
higher,
lot
like,
too. I'm like,
really?
yeah, girls always slapping my ass.
Are
and
you
I'm
for
We
like,
can't
real?
figure out why
Yeah.
girls are slapping their asses so
why?
much.
Like, I know my ass is good, but just like, it's not there to slap, you know?
How
At least take me to dinner
interesting.
first.
Right.
Well, and I think that's the big thing that I kind of want to hit the head on with this podcast is it's not just about like, hey, let's protect women. It's all about women. But it is, again, like I think you said it really well. There's a lack of empathy.
Yeah.
That's it. There's just a lack of empathy for humans,
Yeah.
I think.
And see, that kind of ties into what you were saying about that particular example of like a girl just kind of smacking your ass, right? Because from her perspective, she may think, oh, it's okay because like I'm another girl.
Yeah.
But she's lacking the empathy to like think about, well, what if I were
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
that and it were me dancing?
Totally.
How would you
Would
feel?
I want
Yeah.
Yeah.
A random
some
stranger.
random person, even a girl, to like
Yeah.
smack my ass?
It's crazy. Like, and even if you are, and like some girls, I'm sure, like, would love that, you know? But what if you don't? Just take
Right.
2 seconds to think, what if this person doesn't want that?
Yeah.
Because we are people. We're not robots up there.
Right.
So, and even like too, I mean, even it's just amazing the amount of hate that goes on social media in general. It's like just people's lack of awareness that there is a person on the other side.
What happens a lot with even like influencers or content creators, people just think that that's not like a real job.
Yeah.
You know, I
Right.
think this whole thing is pretty new to society.
Yeah.
And some people are being extremely successful with it, like whether it's like OnlyFans or being a content creator and making so much more money
Yeah.
than like somebody who's working so hard, like 9 to 5, and maybe they're at like a minimum wage job, or even if they're working in corporate. And so what tends to happen is there's insecurity that people
Yeah,
want to
definitely.
project. So they're like, oh, I work so hard, and like, you know, why is this other person seemingly just making TikTok dances or, you know, whatever they're doing, and that's super entertaining. They don't understand that a lot of work goes into that
Yeah.
as well.
Right.
Totally.
But-
And a lot of
well,
sacrifices, man.
And that's
too.
something like how we have a different perspective than a lot of other people, because like having, like, for example, someone like you as our friend, you know, we see not everything, but some of it goes into the so,
The
you know,
business.
we went to like one of your burlesque dances, right?
Yeah.
So like a lot of people will go to those and like that's all they see,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
like we know you're like always like doing like pole training and like doing like all this stuff to you're getting like bruises and like all these injuries. And so like because you're our friend, like we see all this work that goes into it like
Right.
behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And someone watching your show might be like, oh yeah, Alyssa, like she just does it because she's pretty. But like we like see and hear about all this other stuff where you're busting your ass. Oh, can we swear on you?
I think
Okay.
it's fine.
Okay.
I
Popping
have
your
I-
knee.
Right, yeah, blowing your knee out.
You know.
Like,
yeah.
but so like, you know, a lot of other people don't really see all that goes into
Yeah.
the performance.
Yeah.
And so like it all offers another perspective to us, like being connected with all of these people that are in the industry as like our friends, we get that perspective.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, it's insane because yeah, you know, people just see and you know, I think if you're a good performer, you do strive to create the image. You know, the goal is to take people out of the world. And you know, like here I am, like in that show in particular, hot girl, tits out, just pasty covering, pouring champagne all over myself in a martini glass. Like, yeah, I want people to see that and be taken out of reality and be like, wow, this girl isn't even human at this point. And
that was
I
your
want
first
them.
champagne thing, right?
Yeah, that was my first one. I
And you
never
killed it.
stepped into
Yeah.
that martini glass until that moment. Thank you.
It was awesome.
Yeah, and I want to create that fantasy.
Yeah.
But then when I get off stage, you know, it's like, again, I'm off stage now. I don't want people slapping my ass. I am tired. And a big thing that I got was when I started initially was that I would date men who would be like, well, I can't make you my girlfriend because you're a burlesque dancer. And I was just like, what? It blew, and I've heard this quite a bit where, and you know, look, to each their own. I'm not saying every man should be capable of dating a burlesque dancer or an OnlyFans girl because, you know, I can see how it would be a lot. But also, it does blow my mind a little that, like, I think what really bothered me was when people started assuming that I was like a hoe because I have a sensual career. And that blew my mind a little bit. And I think people don't realize, like, it is a job. It is a job. And just because you are a very sensual person doesn't give everybody access to you.
Yeah.
You get to work within the confines of whatever parameters have been set for each person, and how, like, even with like porn stars, whatever they set, like, that's the parameters of what you get for the business, but that doesn't give you full access to the person, if that makes sense. I had a girl that I work with on Playboy make a comment to me, and I'm very big on like mentoring girls that get into like burlesque dancing, that get into working with Playboy, because when I started, I was taken advantage of so much. And it is hard when you're getting offered money, when you have people like, oh, but I love you, like this will be so much fun, and it's tied in with friendship, especially if you don't have a stable support group. If you know, a lot of girls get into this because they don't have family there for them.
Support system.
Yeah, so you're like, well, these people love me, I'm making money, is this wrong? But like, if you don't want to do it, then you shouldn't do it, you know? Or at least like be able to set your boundaries. So I'm very big on mentoring girls that get into this industry and into this business. But you know, this girl made a comment to me about how somebody from Playboy had found her on Instagram and DM'd her, and she was like, how did you find me? Because her names are different. And, you know, figured out how he found her. And then like he made some kind of comment to her of like, and she's like, okay, well, if you want to keep chatting with me, you know, go to Playboy, you know, and pay me to chat with me because that's my business, that's my job. And he was like, well, on here we're equals, so I don't have to pay you anything and you should chat with me on here. And it's like, no, like you found her on a business, like, and you don't suddenly earn or deserve anything just because you happen to hunt around and find her. Like, people are still people in these industries.
Yeah.
That actually is like another big problem with our culture right now, is the sense of entitlement that people have.
Yeah.
So basically that, again, taking the value judgment about, you know, the platform or whatever aside, it's like this person like took away that they were entitled to something.
Yeah.
Entitled to a conversation. And
Yeah.
the thing is, like, no one is ever entitled to that.
No.
Even like in everyday life, you walk up to someone, you can say hi, but you're not they're not entitled, or you're not entitled
It's
to them
true.
engaging with you.
Yeah.
And same thing is true online. It's like you can reach out to someone, but you're not entitled to their attention.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
so that's the problem with that type of conversation. That,
Totally.
you know, why that whole dynamic was not a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, even in dating, you know, like as hard as it is, like you don't owe somebody another date. You don't owe. I'm a big fan of like, well, communicate you know, I try to make sure if I'm not interested in someone, I say, thank you so much, this isn't for me. But I think there's like, you're allowed to have your boundaries in whatever, in work, in dating, in friendships, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know. And
It's healthy, actually.
It's healthy and it's important.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so crazy to have this culture now where you have these random men in the middle of nowhere, and because they paid $5 to have a conversation with you online, now they're going to find you and expect like they get to talk to you for free.
Right.
You know? And it's just, I don't think people realize it takes energy to talk to people. And nobody in the world is entitled to talk to anybody they don't want to. And that's okay.
Yeah.
So it's just, you know, a matter of like, just because you're a pretty girl doesn't mean you owe the world anything other than what you want to give.
Yeah, I think evolution of the dating scene is also very interesting, right? So we look back like, you know, let's say 20 years ago, we didn't have social media.
Yeah.
We didn't have a lot of these, you know, different things like different social media, you know, OnlyFans, TikTok, Instagram. I mean, if you even look at online dating, that's what, like 10, 15 years old.
Pretty new.
Yeah. So I think what happened was people were used to meeting people in like a smaller social circle or like through college or through like somebody you know, through work. And then that evolved into the online dating scene, right?
Yeah.
And then from online dating, which it's kind of almost like on its down, right? Because what happens with a lot of online dating is it's very favored towards women. So, yeah. So if you didn't know, like what happens is it's just generally online dating is geared where most men don't get the clicks or likes. About like 80%, I think we've
Well,
heard,
it's
like
very
numbers
interesting.
Like 60 to 80%.
Yeah. So basically, so just to kind of jump off of what Max just said and provide a little bit more detail.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that women have it easy because it's like there's different problems, right? So I like to say men have it hard, women have it confusing. And so it's like, it's not hard versus easy. It's like different problems. So for men, the way online dating works is like everything is like AI algorithms now at this point. Right. So basically the way the algorithms work, to kind of try to keep it simple for the podcast, it's basically like there's about, I think, 6 to 7 to 1 ratios of men to women on online dating. So if you sign up for an online dating website, there's approximately 6 to 7 other men, like to every girl that signs up, right? So there's already like way too many men, right? So then all these guys are like, kind of like pushing for attention from all these girls. And if you're like on a swipe app, right? They're like swiping like on all the girls, but then the AI algorithm rates them lower and lower and lower. Yeah. And so like then the girls that swipe left on them like pushes them lower, lower, lower. So basically in order to do well on dating websites as a guy, you have to be like a professional athlete or like some of these like really famous DJ, like all of these guys are
almost like a personal brand, like that's successful that you wouldn't need that online dating in the first place.
Yeah.
So that's the tough thing for guys is like you have to be like the top of the top in order to get anything on online dating. So we have it hard. With women, the challenging thing for a woman is you can sign up for, say, for example, Tinder. Like, I'm not endorsed by Tinder, but like, one of the biggest online dating websites out there, right? It's like, yeah, I am too, but like, we won't go into that. Maybe off camera.
Mine to like promote my stuff, and they don't like that. But
yeah.
Okay.
So as a woman, if you sign up for a well-known dating website like that, right?
Yeah.
You can post up a few, like you can literally take some selfies in a bathroom and post those up, and within a day, you're gonna have like 500 to 1,000 matches, right? Yeah. The challenging thing for you as a woman is, again, if you're just looking for something casual, then it's like really, really easy. But most women who go to online dating are not looking for something just casual because they can find something casual anywhere. They're looking for something substantive, some sort of relationship, generally speaking. Yeah. And so the problem for a woman on online dating is you have all these hundreds of matches, but the men, most of the time, are looking for casual on online dating because like if they were gonna go for a relationship, they would be like getting someone from their social circle or something like that. So like men are like pursuing casual online dating, women generally aren't. So you have this mismatch of interests.
Yeah.
And then, so then women have like, they're inundated about all these matches and then they're like, well, I don't know who's interested in me for just, a quick fling versus like the person who's going to be like actually interested in something serious. And
Also, what happens is like it's usually the top 10, 20% of men that get all the matches. So then those men have all the options.
And then for them, it's like it encourages them, because like as guys, we are kind of like, we like variety. But when you have hundreds and hundreds of matches, it's like, why would you just choose one, right?
If you're not there, especially like in your life and place and time.
Right.
So it's this mismatch, and then these algorithms and these dating companies, they want to make more money. So then they come up with boosts, like send a rose, send it this, and then they're trying to so it's usually the guys who are more desperate that will spend all this money, and then they'll, you see that same type of person is like, oh, why am I going to spend this money? Maybe I can find this girl on Instagram and maybe chat with her over there, because that person was not able to break through and get access, or.
Well, and then the girls get frustrated because all the guys they're matching with are these top guys who have like also hundreds and hundreds of matches, and they're just like going through their matches, right? And these girls are frustrated. They're like, man, I have all these matches. I go out on one date and maybe something happens, but then like I get ghosted and nothing ever happens. And like, then I the girl, feel like shit or feel bad, So like, it's discouraging for them. And then they get frustrated with dating and men in general, right? Where it's like, it's the exposure that you're getting to men it's like we weren't really designed for online dating. It's like we as humans, like we're still kind of, our programming
Just because you're a pretty girl doesn't mean you owe the world anything other than what you want to give.
Yeah, I think evolution of the dating scene is also very interesting, right? So we look back let's say 20 years ago, we didn't have social media.
Yeah.
We didn't have a lot of these, different things like different social media, OnlyFans, TikTok, Instagram. If you even look at online dating, that's what, 10, 15 years old.
Pretty new.
Yeah. So I think what happened was people were used to meeting people in like a smaller social circle, or like through college, or through like somebody, through work. And then that evolved into the online dating scene, right?
Yeah.
And then from online dating, which it's kind of almost like on its down, right? Because what happens with a lot of online dating is it's very favored towards women. So if you didn't know, what happens is it's just generally online dating is geared where most men don't get the clicks or likes. About 80%, I think we've heard, numbers like 60 to 80%.
Yeah, so basically, just to kind of jump off of what Max just said and provide a little bit more detail.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that women have it easy, because it's like there's different problems, right? So I like to say men have it hard, women have it confusing. And so it's like, it's not hard versus easy. It's like different problems. So for men, the way online dating works is like everything is like AI algorithms now at this point.
Right.
So basically the way the algorithms work, to kind of try to keep it simple for the podcast, it's basically like there's about, I think, 6 to 7 to 1 ratios of men to women on online dating. So if you sign up for an online dating website, there's approximately 6 to 7 other men, to every girl that signs up, right? So there's already like way too many men, right?
I see.
So then all these guys are like, kind of like pushing for attention from all these girls. And if you're on like on a swipe app, right? They're like swiping like on all the girls, but then the AI algorithm rates them lower and lower and lower.
Oh.
Yeah, and so like then the girls that swipe left on them like pushes them lower, lower, lower. So basically, in order to do well on dating websites as a guy, you have to be like a professional athlete or like some of these like really famous DJ. Like all of these guys are like
almost like a personal
killing it,
brand,
right?
like that's successful
Oh
that
my
you wouldn't
God.
even need that
Interesting.
online
Right.
dating in the first place.
Yeah.
But so that's the tough thing for guys is like you have to be like the top of the top in order to get anything on online dating.
Oh, that's
so we
so
have it hard.
interesting.
With women, the challenging thing for a woman is you can sign up for, say, for example, Tinder. Like, I'm not endorsed by Tinder, but like, one of the biggest online dating websites out there, right?
I'm blocked on Tinder.
I am too, but like, we won't go into that. Maybe off
Mine just because
camera.
I used mine to like promote my stuff, and they didn't like that. But
Yeah. So as a woman, if you sign up for a well-known dating website like that, right?
Yeah.
You can post up a few, like you can literally take some selfies in a bathroom and post those up, and within a day you're gonna have like 500 to 1,000 matches, right?
Yeah.
The challenging thing for you as a woman is, again, if you're just looking for something casual, then it's like really, really easy. But most women who go to online dating are not looking for something just casual because they can find something casual anywhere. They're looking for something substantive, some sort of relationship, generally speaking.
Yeah.
And so the problem for a woman on online dating is you have all these hundreds of matches, but the men, most of the time, are looking for casual on online dating because like if they were going to go for a relationship, they would be like getting someone from their social circle or something like that. So like men are like pursuing casual online dating, women generally aren't. So you have this mismatch of interests.
I
Yeah.
see.
And then women have like, they're inundated about all these matches, and then they're like, well, I don't know who's interested in me for just, you know, a quick fling versus like the person who's going to be like actually interested in something serious.
Yeah.
And
Also,
so
what happens is like it's usually the top 10, 20% of men that get all the matches. So
Right.
then those men have all the options.
and then for them, it's like it encourages them, you know, because like as guys, we are kind of like, we like variety, but when you have hundreds and hundreds of matches, it's like, why would you just choose one, right?
If you're not there, especially like in your life and place and time.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's this mismatch, and then these algorithms and these dating companies, they want to make more money. So then they come up with boosts, like send a rose, send
I
it this,
see.
and then they're trying to like, so it's usually the guys who are more desperate that will spend all this money. And then they'll, like, you see that same type of person is like, oh, why am I going to spend this money? Maybe I can find this girl on Instagram and maybe chat with her over there.
Interesting.
Because I'm not able to, that person was not able to break through and get access or, you know,
Well,
things
and then,
like that.
and then the girls get frustrated because all the guys they're matching with are these top guys who have like also hundreds and hundreds of matches, and they're just like going through their matches, right? And these girls are frustrated. They're like, man, I have all these matches. I go out on one date and maybe something happens, but then like I get ghosted and nothing ever happens. And like, then I, the girl, feel like shit or feel bad, you know? So like, it's discouraging for them, and then they get frustrated with dating and men in general, right? Where it's like, it's the exposure that you're getting to men is, it's like we weren't really designed for online dating. It's like we as humans, like we're still kind of, our programming hasn't caught up to modern technology.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, that's a huge, I'm waiting for the day the books start coming out about dating and social media and how to navigate it, because it is a whole new world, and technology has increased so fast that our human minds haven't been able to catch up to it. And it is really a challenge. And so now, it's like just all these little things that were not even a thing that you had to think about before, but it's now like, well, what does it mean if he likes my picture? Should I like his picture? Like, oh, he's watching all my stories. Like, oh my God, like, what does this mean? And like all these new things for our brain to tackle that weren't even a concept.
Exactly.
Like 20 years ago. And so, you have the online dating, now you have the social media, like now we're about to get bombarded with all this AI stuff, because now you're gonna have to be like, well, is this a real person or is it not? And so it's kind of a scary time, but I think we just have to do our best navigating it as best as possible.
And this is where I think it's really important to really cultivate like real, true friendships with people, and where it's like, Max and I, like, we do lifestyle content creation, have like social events, and where we actually, they're purposeful social events, right? So like we do our photo shoots, we're working on a fashion show, and all these things are like directed towards a purpose. But it's a social networking event where it's like you get to meet people in real life and connect with them, build friendships across industries and such. And having these real friendships is, I mean, it's going to be so hard in today's world with online and everything. It's like still have to like make sure we're making real in-person connections.
Definitely.
Yeah, we got to go back to the human connection aspect of things, and like kind of, and then this is already happening, and you're seeing this with like run clubs, a lot of like these social events, like even like Coachella and stuff, forming like these smaller communities where people are now like who have similar interests, like even how we connected through like a content shoot. That's how it's gonna start forming these smaller communities of people with same interests, and then we'll kind of have to adapt to the new way of the world. But I think it's coming back from online back to the offline world and forming these social connections, because we're going to be very difficult to navigate in the online world.
Because like as we just discussed, like it's not, because you might hear online a lot of men usually saying, oh, women have it so easy, it's so hard for men. But the thing is, like, these people online don't realize, it's going back to the empathy, they don't realize what it's like for the other one. And the real problem is online dating doesn't serve either men or women. The disparity, the chasm between the two, because like ultimately we want to forge connections with people, right? Bring people who have mutual interests together. But the problem is with online dating is it's taking this chasm and like pushing them apart. So now men and women are more divided, at least in my opinion, than they ever have been. So online dating doesn't really serve anyone.
It benefits the dating app, because if you don't find the right person, people will start dropping off. User base would drop.
Definitely.
So that's kind of what we're dealing with, and so that's what's creating part of the problem. People don't realize that.
Well, and it's interesting too, because the older I've gotten, the more I've really had to realize how differently men and women's brains are wired, and how differently our emotions function, how different our bodies are. And so I think, online dating, social media kind of, again, it's like you said, it kind of creates that divide even wider. Something that I've become really aware of is like the way I perceive and process things is not the same way that men are perceiving and processing things. So something that can happen, like we're interpreting it completely different, which is a challenge. And we don't have very good tools in society now to deal with any of that. And I think that's what's kind of creating all this hate culture too, of like, oh, women are just out for money, and oh, men are just assholes and, just trying to fuck everybody. And it's like, no, I think we just have a culture of people that are all really misunderstood, especially in big cities, particularly.
And I think part of it too is everyone's trying to figure out how to best adapt
Yeah.
in this new environment. And some of it comes down to, say, for example, you brought up women making money off of this whole, so take, for example, OnlyFans. Like, obviously, there's multiple other platforms. I'm not endorsed by OnlyFans, but like, there's other platforms too, right? But that's what usually kind of like has drawn our culture that way is because of this divide that's been created by social media and dating apps and all this stuff. A lot of these girls are frustrated. They can't find the connections they want to make.
Yeah.
And they're getting hit up by all these people who they're not interested in, but they're like, well, if I'm going to be hit up like this and not paid versus hit up like that and get paid, I mean, any person who like wants to move forward and be successful is going to choose to get paid for the same thing, right? Nobody wants to work for free.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
like that's like a just kind of like a natural human tendency to just like, well, if I can do the same thing and get paid for it, then why am I not going to do it?
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Yeah. And so it's not necessarily about women being out for money. It's like, it's just like, it's a natural thing for humans to do. Is just like, well, if I can like be successful in this way, this thing that I'm already experiencing, that I'm gonna like do that.
Well, attention is also a currency now, you know? So that's the thing. So it's like, well, like we were talking, if women don't want to give attention to a certain group of guys versus they want to give attention to a certain like successful person, the other side feels entitled, but you feel like I don't need to provide this attention because it's a currency, because it's your life, you have limited time. And so it's creating, so these themes of entitlement, themes of insecurity are what's running through our society right now, creating this mismatch, basically.
And the problem is, like, nobody really knows how to fix it.
Yeah.
So this is the problem. Is like, you know, no one really knows how to fix it. But right now, like, what people do is they just kind of complain. And, you know, it's like, well, okay.
And because of social media and, you know, you want the viral content, you want things that people are going to be like, you know, you complain, you know it's going to pop off because now everyone's like, yeah, I feel that way too. And so now everybody's complaining and this hate culture just grows bigger, bigger. The divide, the misunderstanding gets more and more intense. And the root of the issues aren't being addressed. And that's something I've even focused on in my own personal life is, like, if I'm dating and something happens between me and somebody, you know, my girls, you know, are loyal, so they're always quick to be like, oh, well, fuck him, you know. But I always try to be like, what is, like, the root of what's actually going on here? Why did he decide to act like that? And why is it affecting me this way? What is, like, and I'm, like, maybe a little bit too over analytical, but I go back to, like, what's my childhood trauma? You know, why was I attracted to this in the first place? And how can I grow and move past this? And I think, honestly, I feel like if we all did that for ourselves, we would have a much healthier society. And so I try to, like, I even tell my friends, like, I appreciate you having my back, but I don't want to hear the negative talk. Like, I'd rather you know, call me out if I'm, like, in a unhealthy pattern, but also let's not get into the whole, like, man-hating negative talk, because what are we achieving here? Nothing.
Right.
You know, and is it even helping me? No, it's making me worse and more jaded to where I'm more likely to get into another situation and just start hating men more and more, and it takes me away from moving into that loving relationship that I want. And so I think it really is, you know, this whole clickbait society, what's going to get me the most views and the most likes, instead of how can we start. And that's why I even changed the direction of this podcast too, because at first I was like, well, I know exactly how to do the clickbait stuff to get the views, and I was like, I don't want to do a podcast like that though, because this is a project that I'm not doing for, like, views or likes. I'm doing it to make a change. I'm doing it to bring awareness. And it's like you said, we don't really know how to fix that problem, but I think if conversations begin, discussions start being had, we can at least talk about it, and solutions, I think, will begin to arise. And it starts with having the conversation. It starts with acknowledging something is wrong, because you can't change anything until you acknowledge that there's something wrong. So, and that's why I love that you said, you explained something that me and my girls talk about all the time, but I love that it came out of a man, instead of us saying it, because that's exactly how we feel. The comment about like, I always tell people, I'm like, I can't walk out of my apartment down the street without getting harassed. Every single day. At least 5 times I go down the street, I'm getting honked at, I'm getting yelled at, I'm getting followed. Like, it's
also Hollywood Boulevard.
It is also Hollywood Boulevard. This is true.
Gotta stay off Hollywood Boulevard, Alyssa.
Well, I live on it, so and I'm like, my whole life is on that boulevard. But even so, but even like not in Hollywood, like my dad made a comment. He was like, well, maybe you need to like dress down more. And I'm like, it's when I dress down that I get attacked the most. When I'm dressed up, I'm actually less likely to be approached because people are scared of me. But when I'm in my sweats, I've got a hoodie on, that's when they go for me because I think I seem like easier prey.
The problem with that though, that comment though, is it kind of like comes from a faulty mindset.
I mean, that's true too.
Because basically saying, oh, what if you dress down?
Yeah.
The mindset is,
like,
well, if you change
yourself.
It's basically saying, well, if you change your dress, basically saying the problem is your dress, how you dress.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Which is the faulty mindset. The faulty mindset is in the person that's doing it. The person who's taking the action, the person who's like being, harassing or following you or whatever.
Totally.
It's like the problem is with that person.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
there's tons of stories with women who were, I don't know if we can say the R word, but like
I've said it so many times.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tons of girls who were like sexually assaulted and raped and stuff like that, who like were not dressed, they like were wearing sweats.
Exactly.
Right? And
so
it doesn't really have to do with, and we know this at this point, it doesn't really have to do with how you dress.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, it kind of like misunderstands that type of violent act.
Yeah.
Is it has nothing to do with sexuality and has more to do with an exertion of power.
Yeah.
And so it's like that mindset of, oh, well, if you just change your dress, which, I mean, I'm not trying to say anything bad about your dad, but it's like that mindset is kind of a problem in our culture because it kind of misses the problem that's actually happening.
In all culture, because my dad's from China, so this is all culture, really. Yeah, it's a huge thing, and that's, I'm about to touch on a heavier subject here, but that I come from a religious background, and there's certain things, I don't talk about in Hollywood, but there are things that I revere about my background that I still hold valuable to myself. But that's one of my big issues with religion is this idea, it's consistent throughout multiple religions.
Yes.
The woman has to stay covered. The woman has to, you can't, it's the woman's fault, And it goes back to this comment I got about like, oh, it's never the woman's fault for being assaulted. And it's like, no, it's not the woman's fault. Like, a woman should be, like, men don't have to wear bras, Like, but because a woman's in a bikini or she's not, it doesn't matter. It's a woman's body is a woman's body. A man just needs to have self-control.
Yeah, and so this actually is like something that I'm really passionate about is something you just brought up. So that's one background that we share was like growing up really religiously, right?
Yeah.
That was one thing that really frustrated me about my growing up was all of this talk about like how women should dress a certain way because this is going to be a different perspective than you're used to, but I think you'll like it. So basically, the reason it bothered me was because it basically made me helpless. Because basically, it basically said, I am a beast of the world who's a slave to my impulses.
Oh,
and I have no self-control. And so I am this poor, helpless, raging beast who can't control himself. And the only way that you can control my urges is by covering up.
Wow.
And I was like,
that's powerful.
God, that's like kind
it's
of
emasculating.
Exactly. It's like, it's emasculating. I was like, I always felt like shit because of that. And I was like,
Wow.
it feels so bad as a man too. It's like I can definitely understand how it feels bad as a woman too, but it's like this was the perspective that I had.
Wow.
Was like man, like, and being around like a lot of swimsuit models and burlesque dancers.
Yeah,
and,
you
like, all
guys are
this stuff.
surrounded by
It's like
beautiful women.
It really changed my perspective because it made me realize I was like, this is so freeing because like now from where my growing up was, I'm like, I can be around all these people and like a lot of them are my friends and I see them as people and it is really empowering to me as a man too because I'm like, I feel so powerful and control of myself as opposed to like what my growing up was.
Yeah.
And I think it's also something great for women too, because then
Totally.
they feel safe and that they can be expressive and
And they
dress how
can be empowered
want.
also.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's the real goal is to get, where is the line where we, rise above all this? Because, like I love my dad, but it does come down. I think this all stems from generational trauma, generational cultural patterns that are unhealthy, and like I have a lot of issues with the Asian culture because I'm Asian, and people are always like, that's so narrow-minded, but it's like I grew up in a culture that I see is very unhealthy. It's very toxic, and it just continues on. It continues this pattern, and we're not changing it. And so, it's really just about how do we get men and women at a place where we're both empowered. And that's the big reason why I wanted to bring men on here too, is because like. My train of thought just like wandered out the window as I was talking.
You wanted to bring more men on here.
Yeah, I want to bring more men on here to really balance that out and be like, this isn't just like the woman's point of view too. Like there are men who get it. And you guys are, and it is really about raising men up because, we've talked about on this podcast how, a lot of men have lost their power too. Because women are like, we're tired of this, so we're gonna start working, we're gonna be strong. And now women are kind of taking that masculinity place. But then we're like upset and we're like, why are men not being men? But it's like there's been this shift now where women are learning to be strong and men need to keep being strong or be like not stronger than women, but be stronger than they were before. So we're all elevating collectively. But instead you have a lot of men, not all men, but a lot of men who are like, oh, well, the woman's got it, so I'm gonna. And this is why I would love to actually get your guys' opinion on this. This is why a big theme that we've gone over is like, should a man pay? And I've actually had girls on here who have also been like, no, I want to pay my half. And then I've had girls who are like, no, a man should pay. I personally am a big advocate of, yes, a man should pay, at least amongst me and my friends. The reason for that being is because all of us at one point or another have had a situation where we are paying for everything and taking care of a man who is sitting on our couch, either doing nothing, being depressed, or cheating. And it's like, because I know my friends are like that, I'm like, you have to have him pay, because we are the type of people who will give everything to somebody and get completely run over. So from the beginning, make sure you're with somebody who's gonna meet you, Like I'm a very big person where if you have a goal and you have to isolate for however many years to focus on your goal and you're not bringing in any money, but you are grinding every day, I will pay for everything so you can get to where you need to be. But the problem with that is that if you are not that person, I get taken advantage of so easily. Same with a lot of my friends, and not all women are like that. I know that. And I think, it varies. But that's my personal opinion and why I'm like, yeah, men should pay. And I love a strong man. I don't want to be the man. I don't think any woman wants to be the man in the relationship. I think women love a good leader that values her as a partner, as an equal partner. And that's where like I think kind of setting that precedent. It's a small thing that goes a long way. And I'm not like, I actually get really turned off the more money a man spends on me on the first date. It's like a big turn off to me. I actually am more impressed if you do something really cost effective, because then you're showing me you're mindful of how much money you're spending. And as long as it's something thoughtful that like I'm gonna like, you know, I'm actually much more impressed with that. But still, you need to pay at the beginning to show me that like, you know, you're gonna take care of me too. But then we've had other girls on here who are like, you know, no, I want to pay on the first date because it's a matter of me claiming my power and me saying like, you know, you're not gonna own me. But see, I also feel like that's where these same women, though, they end up paying for everything sometimes, which, you know, is my concern. It's like, you know, well, it's not about giving your power away. It's just about testing the man, just as, you know, a man is testing you too. It's just about seeing if you guys are compatible. And there was a comment on one of those about how like, well, if the man is paying on the first date, then you're cooking on the second. And, you know, I think, in my opinion, I think men are traditionally warriors. Men are the hunters. Men are the one who are going out and protecting and providing, because men were physically built stronger. Women were built with our insides are literally wombs for life. We were built softer. It doesn't matter how strong you are. Like, you could be stronger than the man you're dating, but you still are built in a way that is made to nurture and protect and to grow life. Whereas men don't have that. So you can have better stamina. You can be stronger. You can reach higher things, you know? And so I still think there's a level of courtship that needs to be done where like, great, if the woman cooks and cleans later, I do think a woman has to show her value and contribute. But I do think the testing period at the beginning should be a little bit longer for a man, because they're the ones that are the conquerors. That's just their nature. Whereas we are meant to, you know, be that safe space, not just like physically making a house nice, but like in our bodies. It's what our genetic, you know, our genetic build is. Mm-hmm. So anyways, I would love to hear like your guys' thoughts on all of that.
Yeah, so traditionally, men were supposed to, be the one to gather resources, right? You go out, you hunt, you know, you bring the thing to your community, and we all share, right? So that was traditional role for men and women. The traditional role was they were building families and communities and things like that, right? So I don't think that has changed, but society has evolved.
Yeah.
And so now it's like a different context. So I actually have two kind of points of view on this. One is that men should continue to be more powerful leaders. They should continue to progress and look to, continue to build resources and be a man of resources. Because unfortunately, if you're not a man of resources in today's world, you're not going to get any attention. You know, people look at men and they're not successful. And I'm not saying they're bad people or anything, but they're not just looked upon and respected as leaders. Having said that, some men use money to impress women or try to earn their love or affection. And I think that's a false way. Like, that's not going to work either. Yeah. Because like you said, you more care about someone being thoughtful, and it's really coming down to an ability of the person to build that connection. But so I'm saying essentially that as a man, you should continue to build resources and be a man of resources and take care of the people around you. That is the role of men, and that will continue. But having said that, men also should be smart about not trying to use just money to impress someone.
Totally.
Because you're not going to get there anywhere with especially higher quality women.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
they see
definitely.
through like what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so
Very
don't use
unattractive.
money only.
Yeah.
Don't lead with money.
Yeah.
You know, be a person of resources, but show your value, show your personality.
Yeah.
You know, and then you should have access to resources to be able to take care of people around you and be able to provide for them. So that's kind of my perspective about like how I approach things. You know, I take care of people around me. I'm very generous, but I'm also not like leading with money and like trying to impress people, you know, with all the stuff that I have. I mean, that's something that they should discover over time.
Yeah, definitely.
So basically, I think the primary purpose for men is to be successful and providers and protectors. And that was true traditionally, and I think that's still true today. I think women are still, generally speaking, still drawn to a guy who's a strong leader, respected by other men, provides, protects, obviously respects women around him, but like women, generally speaking, are drawn to that kind of man. And so I would say men should be striving for that, to fill that role in society. Because it isn't just about women, right? It's about fulfilling a role in society and building society.
Making a better society.
Yes. I think as it relates to dating itself, broadly speaking, I would say like the man should pay as kind of like a symbol of his role that he is fulfilling in society and the role he is going to fulfill towards the woman. However, like Max said, I think it is a lot of people try to lead with lots and lots of money and thinking that this is going to impress the girl. What I think is much better, and it's what I've done a lot of times in my dating life, is something kind of like what you were saying, where I think there's like a couple different things. It's not just about paying, but it's like planning, facilitating. All of those little things about the date is more than just paying. It's showing the woman, I am providing and I'm a leader and I'm going to lead you on a date, right?
Create
It's not just to like, I'll pay for it, but where do you want to go?
Yeah.
Right. But so here's a really good example. Like, and like every time like I would take a girl on a first date, it would be something very, I want to say casual, but it's like not necessarily a lot of money, but it'd be something like kind of thoughtful. So like maybe you'd be like, hey, you know, we're going on a weekend, you know, maybe like, hey, you know, I know you love art. So like there's this really cool little art museum and, you know, in this, you know, rare part of the town that nobody knows about. Yeah. And I'm going to take you to this art museum. And then afterwards, I have this special spot that has a great view of the water and the sunset. And I packed like a picnic lunch or dinner or whatever. And we're going to like go and we're going to watch the sunset at this like little secluded place, you know, whatever. It's basically, it's like you're showing leadership in planning the date. You're connecting it to her and her interests and making it special to her. And you're providing, you know, whatever the costs are. You know, there's probably like costs to the art museum, probably there's costs for food and all that stuff. But you're not shelling out, oh, I'm going to take you to a Nobu and like, then we're going to like go on a yacht, whatever. It's a first date. You don't need to be throwing out massive amounts of money, but it's like, it's the important things are like showing who you are as a man. Like I plan things, I facilitate things, I'll provide for you, and I'll lead you through the date. And I think that's what's really most important about dating. And I know there's like kind of like the common cliche that's been going around Instagram, like I don't go on dates to Cheesecake Factory, right? And I think that's.
You haven't heard that?
Oh, you haven't? Oh, okay, it's a thing that.
Like a meme type thing that.
Yeah, about a lot of girls are like, oh well, I don't go on dates to Cheesecake Factory. Basically saying.
I love Cheesecake Factory.
I know. I was like.
What's wrong with cheesecake?
I was like, I took a ton of girls to dates to Cheesecake Factory back in the day, but like, I don't think there's anything like wrong with Cheesecake Factory, but the thought process was he needs to spend Nobu level money on me because I'm worth Nobu, not Cheesecake Factory. Which I get that perspective from girls. It's like they want to feel valued, but the thing is, like, I think it's coming from the wrong angle because, like, it's like you can feel valued by a man planning a date, facilitating it, picking something that's specific to you and tailored to your interests. Like, a man can show that you are special with that, not necessarily in just like dollar amount of spend.
Yeah.
And I think on a first date, like, you shouldn't be spending necessarily a lot of money per se, because like you don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
You could go on the date and maybe there's not a connection. And the thing is, like, that's okay. The thing is, like, people in society they're not okay with things not working out. And that's something that's like been really great, at least for me. I don't know about Max, but like, as I've expanded my social circle and like I have like a lot of female friends and like, a lot of, women in my life, I've just become really okay with like going out on a date here and there and like just seeing where it goes. And, it's like sometimes there's something there, sometimes there's not. And the thing is, that's okay. It's like, it doesn't have to be. It's like maybe you weren't meant for each other, right? And I think that's something that's kind of missing in society today with the kind of the differences in why you have these mismatches where guys are like, oh, we should only go 50-50, and girls are like, oh, I don't go on dates to Cheesecake Factory. It's like, it's kind of like this mismatch there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, and my thought process is, if I'm going on a date with you, I'm trying to see, would this potentially be a good life partner? So in my head, if you're spending, I mentioned this on another podcast, how, I went on a date and he spent $5,000 on me roughly. And that was such a turn off to me, because it was like, if you're spending that much money on me on a first date, how many other first dates are you doing spending that much money? And how much money are you spending in just a month,
Did he get a second date?
No. And the funny thing is, I mean, it just wasn't there for me.
Yeah.
But also, I actually was like very turned off by how much money he spent, because I was like, you are probably not good with your money if you're spending this much on a first date, or you have a lot of money, but I'm like kind of too intuitive for my own good. I found out some months later he went bankrupt, and I was like, well, it makes sense. You're spending money too casually. Like, it's great you were once a millionaire, but like, you have to know how to kind of sustain that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you make a lot of money, if you are, and I've learned that for myself too. Like, I've made a lot of money mistakes that I've learned, but like, if you're a man, I mean, I would like to be with someone who's better than me financially, to be honest. But if you're being that casual with your money, and you don't know where this is going to go either, you don't know me yet, and you're already spending $5,000 on me, like, that's a pretty big red flag.
Well, and the thing is, like, honestly, like, it's kind of men misunderstanding their role. And because the thing is, like, a lot of times in our, like, where we are at today, there's a lot of men chasing women when they should be focused on building society. And the thing is, if they focus on building themselves in order to become better builders of society, right? Because we have to build ourselves as men in order to be better builders of society. But the purpose of me as a man is not to chase women. Right? My purpose as a man is to build society. I'm a builder. I build things, right? Yeah. We build societies. That's what we do. And the thing is, like, when men shift their focus, and this is like from personal experience, I learned this, I used to be a big playboy, and like I was chasing women essentially. And, like, that was the focus and purpose of my life for a long time. And it's not fulfilling. And eventually you get depressed because, like, you as a man, you are not fulfilling what was built into us. Our core need is to, like, become builders of society. And when men chase women for something, like that guy who is like chasing you and probably other women too with the $5,000 he was spending on all of them, he was shifting his purpose to chasing women and instead of building society, because like when men shift their purpose to build society, they become over the long, and again, it's like you mentioned the guys who are just sitting on your couch and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like when they grind and they have purpose and they focus their life and dedicate it to building society, over the long run, they become more successful.
Yeah.
And then as they become more successful, women become drawn to them because they are builders of society. And it's really the important thing for guys and men is to shift their focus away from chasing women and to build better societies and become better men.
Yeah.
That's what's attractive about men too. It's like what women find attractive, I think,
Yeah.
you know, at least from my experience, is like men who are driven, men who are on their purpose, men who are like continually making their lives better. Because that's self-respect.
Yeah.
And if you respect yourself, you're going to respect other people.
So true. Yeah.
Right? And so you continue to improve upon, you know, like the way you treat yourself. You know, that's what's attractive about men, is to be somebody who's improving themselves. And if you improve yourself, you're going to improve people around you.
Definitely.
You bring them up. You bring yourself up. That's how the world works. And I think that's what I strive to do and continue to be better. And that's kind of the message that we have for like men, like in general, you know, because regardless of how somebody else is acting, you want to focus on like, what are you going to do? How are you going to increase your value? How to be a better person so you can take care of people around you.
Yeah.
And I think where we want to kind of go from our perspectives and what we are contributing to you and your podcast and your audience is the message we want to bring is basically, obviously there's a lot of chasm between men and women in society today, and we want to get to the point where we bridge those two together. But the most important thing is men need to be focused on building themselves up and building better societies. And I think it can help women to, I know women are in a very tough spot in society today, but hearing these perspectives, I think it can help them in knowing what's the kind of man they need to be looking for and sorting out in their, as they like are looking for, you know, don't necessarily look at the guy who's like spending the most, right? Like the guy who spent $5,000 on you, but like look for the guy who's like has these attributes and that's how you can maybe avoid a little bit less of becoming jaded about men in general, because there are men out there that are like that. And so trying to like protect yourself as a woman from becoming jaded from bad experiences with men who are not on their purpose. And it's hard to find guys who are, but there's guys out there. And so it's like if you kind of protect yourself from there's a couple of them. But yeah, so like the message to your audience would be like, please don't lose faith in men. There's good men out there. Just know what to look for in a man, and try to align yourself, whether romantically or not. Try to align yourself with men, that group of people, and
whether they're friends, they could be your friends.
You
know, like be around people who uplift you. You know? And stay away from the negativity. You know, just because otherwise it's gonna not be good for anybody. Really.
Yeah.
That's why I hang out with you guys.
Yeah.
Like these are good guys. Like. And it's true. Like I come from a very, well, I want to wrap it up, but I come from a very like traumatic, toxic background, and it's hard to find it's hard to get into healthy relationships when you've never seen one. But something I've learned is, you know, I started by having healthy friendships with girls, and that like started a lot, and now I'm starting to have healthy friendships with men, and that like makes a big difference too. And so, and I think, like, I love what you said, don't give up hope. I'm going to have to send this out to, like, 10 of my girlfriends who I literally had a conversation last night with a girl. And she was like, I just don't think there are any good men out there. And I was like, they are out there. It's just, you kind of have to shift through them. And I was also like, girl, where are you finding these men? Because if you're finding them in nightlife, because you work in nightlife, what do you expect?
Yeah, everybody knows the VIP host who's like dated everybody in the club.
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, what do you expect? You know, which don't get me wrong, I'm a big believer of like, don't judge, because like I hate when people are like, well, you're a burlesque dancer, so you're obviously promiscuous. So to each their own, you know, everyone's on their own journey. But yeah, like more than likely you're gonna find the right kind of people in the right kind of environments. And that's why I tell people, you're not gonna find me in the club ever unless I'm getting paid.
Yeah.
That's it. And like, and I had to tell one of my friends recently, I was like, I went out with her to an event that was at 9 p.m. or whatever, and I was like, this is the last one of these I'm gonna do. Like, you're not gonna find me at any more of these. And I was like, girl, let's go to fucking pickleball tournaments or something, or like, let's do like daytime things, get hiking.
Yeah.
Like, because that's the energy of the people I want to be around. So, like, I want to start finding more people like this, whether for dating, whether for friendship,
Right.
because it's a different mentality. It's a clearer mindset.
It's healthier.
It's healthier.
Yeah.
You're putting more energy into just taking care of yourself as a person.
Absolutely.
So, side note, I love that we're all kind of like wearing black.
I
again.
know.
Oh, yeah.
I almost started laughing. I was like, whoa,
With
that
the
was
beige, I
creative.
think it plays really well.
Yeah.
The blues,
Yeah.
Like, I like it.
Not plans, not plans. I've had episodes where like
It's just people with great taste.
yeah.
Good
Well,
style.
and too, I think subconsciously, because I've only brought on people that I know, and so I subconsciously dress to the person that's coming on, you know, not meaning to, and I nail it pretty well.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good job.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming
Wow.
on.
This
This
is
was solid.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was a great
I thought
conversation.
I thought it
Yeah.
was incredible. We didn't even realize an hour passed. by.
Yeah, it's like we thought it was like half an hour,
Yeah.
and then like everything's timing out.
Guys, you know, just a great conversation.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Literally,
Yeah.
literally. Well, that's why I knew you guys would be a good.
This is great.
You guys would be the right first guys to bring on.
I think it would be a great panel.